Yeah.
The question be now put.
Jan Logie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good choice indeed. I'd like to speak and also offer my opposition for the title, the Immigration Amendment Bill, which I don't think describes what's happening here at all. There are many things I would like to call this bill, but most of them I'm not allowed to say in this House, I must say. So I will constrain myself to polite language and alternative titles, though, to be honest, they won't reflect how I actually feel about this bill. And the Minister may have called me sanctimonious before for quoting the Human Rights Commission. You know, it wasn't actually my opinion that I was offering, it was the Human Rights Commission's opinion. And if that makes me sanctimonious, well, I'll live with that. Being on the side of the Human Rights Commission, the UNHCR, you know, people working with refugees in Australia, you know, I'm okay siding with those people and their views of this bill. And I'm sure they would come up with quite a few titles for this bill that were not an Immigration Amendment Act. I think some of the titles maybe would be the Needless Fear-Mongering Bill. And I do want to speak to that title a little bit because it speaks to some of the heart of this for me around the difficulty of speaking to this bill, is because when we talk about the fact that there's not going to be a mass arrival, because despite the fact that, you know, Waka arrived here from the Pacific a while ago and we had some large boats, the world is different now. And we know that the boat that made it to Canada, that had 500 people on it, was a multi-million-dollar boat, I believe, and was funded by a very wealthy Tamil community in Canada, and that in New Zealand we've had advice from the officials that we have no such wealthy refugee community in New Zealand who would be capable of funding such a venture. So it's incredibly, incredibly unlikely, and the fact that a boat made it to Australia saying they wanted to come to New Zealand means nothing at all, because your first point of arrival is where you seek refuge, and to say you want to go somewhere else means nothing. But in the way I'm speaking right now, I'm really conscious that it creates a sense of fear that actually we wouldn't want an arrival of people, that it's something that we need to shore ourselves up against and create these barriers to prevent these people from coming here. And that is not an impression that I want to give, because these are people who are fleeing wars, who are fleeing persecution, many people who are trying to do the right thing, who may be going against their military and the call from their government to kill people that they find morally repugnant and are fleeing for their lives in the belief of doing something right. These are not people that we should be shoring ourselves up against and creating barriers for them to enter our country. And our country does very, very little, actually, globally, in terms of supporting asylum seekers. Australia, you know, actually we don't want the terrible situation that's happening in Australia. Globally, Australia takes in very few asylum seekers compared to other countries. Look at what's happening in Lebanon at the moment and how they're welcoming refugees and asylum seekers into their country, into their systems. They are not setting up camps. In fact, they are just allowing people to integrate because they recognise their role in the global community and protection. And that fundamental value of us having a place to go in a time of strife. That is what we should be striving for. That is what the Convention committed us to. And this bill, which should be titled the National Day of Shame, a bill lacking in humanity bill, the not doing our fair share in the world bill, the ruining our international reputation bill. I can list off flippant titles, but this is not a flippant matter. This does come down to the leadership we're going to take in the world in terms of ensuring people's safety and being able to stand up and say we have a role to be able to ensure people's safety. And we need to sort out the UN systems. We need to sort out the refugee camp systems that are... And I went to a refugee camp this year for the first time in my life, and they are no life.
Alfred Naro.
I move that the question be now put.
Sue Moroney.
Very good choice.